A few years ago, I believed something that most people believe. I thought life would eventually make sense. I thought one day I'd wake up, figure everything out, and finally feel confident about where I was going. But that day never came, and the more people I met, the more I realized something surprising. Almost nobody knows what they're doing. Not your boss, not successful entrepreneurs, not celebrities, not even the people who look like they have it all figured out. They're all just making decisions with the information they have and hoping it works. And strangely enough, realizing that changed my life because for years, I was waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel confident, waiting for certainty. But life doesn't reward people who wait. It rewards people who move, even when they're unsure. Think about it for a second. How many opportunities have you missed because you didn't feel ready? How many ideas never became reality because you kept planning instead of starting? How many times have you told yourself, one day? The truth is, most people don't fail because they're not talented. They fail because they spend too much time preparing to live instead of actually living. And that's where I learned my first lesson. Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action. Most people think they need a perfect plan before they begin. But every successful person I've ever studied started confused. They started scared. They started uncertain. The difference is, they started. And that's something most people never do. But here's where life gets really strange. The harder you try to force things, the worse they often become. Have you ever tried to force yourself to sleep? The more you try, the more awake you become. Have you ever desperately wanted someone to like you? The more desperate you become, the more awkward everything feels. The same thing happens with happiness, confidence, success. The things we chase the hardest often seem to run away from us. And for years, I couldn't understand why. Then I realized something. Life rewards effort, but it punishes desperation. There's a huge difference. One comes from confidence, the other comes from fear. And people can feel the difference. Opportunities can feel the difference. Even you can feel the difference. The moment you stop desperately chasing outcomes and start focusing on the process, everything changes. Now here's another lesson I wish I learned earlier. Most stress comes from fighting battles you can never win. Think about how much time people spend worrying. The economy, politics, traffic, social media, what other people think about them, things they have absolutely no control over. And somehow, we convince ourselves that worrying about these things is productive. It's not. It's exhausting. One of the most freeing ideas I ever discovered was this. You don't need to control everything. You only need to control yourself, your actions, your habits, your reactions. That's it. The rest is noise. And honestly, the moment I accepted that, life became a lot lighter. But there was another problem. Even when things were going well, I kept thinking, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I make more money. I'll be happy when I reach my goals. I'll be happy when I get the recognition I deserve. Maybe you've told yourself the same thing. The problem is, happiness keeps moving. You reach one goal, then your brain creates another, and another, and another. It's like running toward the horizon. No matter how far you go, it keeps moving. That's when I realized something. The happiest people I know aren't obsessed with happiness. They're obsessed with growth. They enjoy learning, building, creating, helping others. And happiness appears as a side effect, not a target. A side effect. That's a huge difference. And speaking of things that trick us, let's talk about your brain. Because your brain is constantly lying to you. Not because it's broken, because that's its job. Your brain isn't designed to show reality exactly as it is. It's designed to protect you. It filters information, creates shortcuts, makes assumptions, and sometimes convinces you that your fears are facts. Have you ever noticed how your worst-case scenarios almost never happen? Yet your brain treats them like certainty. That's because your mind is a survival machine, not a truth machine. And the moment you realize that, you stop believing every thought that enters your head. Now here's something even more powerful. Most people spend their lives trying to change their results. Very few people try to change their habits. But habits are where your future is created. Not motivation, not inspiration. Habits. The small things you repeat every day eventually become your life. One workout doesn't change your body. One healthy meal doesn't change your health. One book doesn't change your intelligence. But hundreds of them do. And that's where most people quit. Because the results are invisible at first. You work hard. Nothing happens. You stay consistent. Still nothing happens. And then one day, everything starts showing up at once. The confidence, the success, the opportunities. People call it luck. But it wasn't luck. It was compound interest. Not in money. In life. Every small choice was quietly building momentum behind the scenes. And that's why the most powerful force in the world isn't talent. It isn't intelligence. It isn't even motivation. It's consistency. Tiny actions repeated long enough create extraordinary outcomes. That's how lives change. Not overnight. Not in a weekend. Not through some secret hack. But through small decisions made every single day. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all. Life is simpler than we think. Not easier. Just simpler. Focus on what you can control. Stop waiting to feel ready. Build better habits. Keep moving forward. And trust that small actions, repeated consistently, will eventually take you somewhere incredible. Because one day, you'll look back and realize something. The life you wanted wasn't built in one big moment. It was built through hundreds of tiny moments that seemed insignificant at the time. And that's how real change happens. One decision, one action, one day at a time. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe.